This podcast is an invitation to feel and experience the souls of famous old Hollywood homes and to have an in-depth journey to the areas where they're located through interviews with longtime residents. Either you're a fan of old Hollywood in Los Angeles, planning to have a vacation, or, an even bigger step, considering a certain area for your future home. This is your opportunity to receive valuable information and insightful advice you won't find anywhere else.
Hello, and welcome to my podcast. Are you in the mood for California? Today we'll feel and experience Hollywood Hills, followed by an interview with wonderful Frank Roller.
Beauty of the Hollywood Hills is that you have a certain detachment from the city centers. So you're still pretty close to everything, but you have a certain distance. You're surrounded by trees and the canyons, and it's much quieter. So how would I describe the Hollywood Hills? I think the Hollywood Hills is very private. Of course, it has this kind of reputation and the stigma of like the rich people live there, but it's not the case. I think it's more people who want to have their privacy, but also don't want to live completely remote, like for example, people in Topanga Canyon or someone further out. So you still have this connection to the city, but you have also your privacy and your sanctuary in the green, looking down on the city.
Masha Korpacheva is a California-based realtor and a member of the National Association of Realtors in Los Angeles. She's an advocate for selling and buying homes with soul and practicing mindfulness in real estate. With master's degrees in spiritual psychology and linguistics, Masha brings all of her skills to work with her clients. An intuit and empath, she has touched many lives with her outstanding ability to see beyond the visible and helping to come to better understanding of issues and their resolutions. An adventurous world traveler, from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania to exploring the Galapagos Islands, Masha has a particular passion for the City of Angels. Having landed in this paradise and adopted it as her home, she's been sharing old Hollywood stories since 2007. In the mood for California, feel the soul of old Hollywood.
And now, are you ready to experience Hollywood Hills? The Hollywood Hills, a verdant oasis perched above the hum of Los Angeles, feels like a world caught between epochs. Here, time bends and stretches, embracing you in its silence, as if the cacophony of the city below could never touch these wooded slopes. It is a place where urban life meets the wild, where the sight of a hawk circling above can replace the skyline of glass and steel in your heart. Imagine standing on a sunlit trail, the scent of eucalyptus and sage mingling in the air. The Hollywood Hills were once the domain of the Tongva people, who called this region home before it became synonymous with fame. For them, the hills were a sacred place, a sanctuary of wild creatures and spirit-laden winds. Even today, if you listen closely, you might hear echoes of their songs in the rustle of the leaves. The transformation began in the early 20th century when Hollywood emerged as the epicenter of cinema. Movie stars and moguls sought refuge in the hills, building homes that were both retreats and monuments to their newfound fame. But the magic of the hills wasn't just in their proximity to the studios. It was in their tranquility. To live here was to have one foot in the dreams of the silver screen and the other in the quietude of nature. Walking through the Hollywood Hills can feel like stepping into a time capsule. The winding streets, originally designed for horse-drawn carriages, whisper of an earlier era. Some homes still bear the architectural fingerprints of the 1920s and 1930s. Spanish colonial villas with red-tiled roofs, mid-century modern gems perched precariously on cliffs, and English Tudor-style cottages tucked into groves. There is a certain timelessness in the landscape itself. The chaparral-covered slopes, dotted with ancient oaks, have remained largely unchanged. At dawn, the hills come alive with birdsong, and in the evening, coyotes call to one another under a canopy of stars. It's hard to believe you're minutes away from the bustling Sunset Strip or the roar of Hollywood Boulevard. Every corner of the Hollywood Hills seems to harbor a story. Did you know that the Hollywood sign, initially built in 1923 as Hollywoodland, was an advertisement for real estate development? Its letters once glowed with over 4,000 bulbs, a beacon inviting dreamers to the area. Over time, the sign became an enduring symbol of ambition and reinvention. Then there is the Hollywood Bowl, an enchanting amphitheater nestled in the heart of the Hollywood Hills, a place where music and nature converge under the stars. Opened in 1922, surrounded by the rugged beauty of the hills, the bowl's shell-like stage has hosted legend ranging from Ella Fitzgerald to the Beatles. Attending a concert here is a sensory delight, where the melodies soar into the open sky, mingling with the soft rustle of nearby trees, blending artistry with the serene charm of California's outdoors. Living or simply visiting the Hollywood Hills is a reminder to pause, to breathe, to notice. Whether you're sipping coffee on a patio overlooking the basin or watching the city lights shimmer below, you can't help but feel that these hills are a bridge between worlds. One foot in the city's electric future, the other in the whispers of its untamed past. The Hollywood Hills are more than just a place. They are an experience, a sensation, a living story. It's where the heartbeat of Los Angeles slows to match the rhythm of the earth, where the rustle of the wind through the trees tells you that for a moment, time really has stopped. And in that moment, you're not just in a city or the countryside. You're in the midst of something extraordinary. And here we are. Welcome to Hollywood Hills. I am so thrilled to have Frank Roller here with me. Frank Roller is the visionary founder and editor-in-chief of placesofhealing.com, an innovative online resource dedicated to transformative travel and wellness. His platform serves as a gateway for travelers and wellness seekers to discover unique destinations centered around holistic healing practices, connecting them with practitioners, wellness experts, and their inspiring stories. Driven by his passion for exploration and an insatiable curiosity for the unknown, Frank established Places of Healing to empower others on their journey for well being, making it effortless to locate destinations that offer not just relaxation, but personal growth and profound transformation. Frank's journey to launching Places of Healing was paved by decades of experience in the creative industry. His extensive background as principal at GlamPR, a production company he has led since 2000, solidified his expertise in art direction, production management, and creating compelling visual narratives for global brands. At GlamPR, Frank excelled in delivering comprehensive production services from art buying to celebrity endorsements, building an extensive network of industry professionals, and crafting tailor-made solutions for high-profile clients. His experience there laid the foundation for the storytelling approach that is now central to Places of Healing. Through Places of Healing, Frank aims to inspire others to explore new cultures, engage with healing traditions, and meet storytellers who resonate with their journey. He believes that travel at its essence goes beyond physical exploration. It's an inward journey of self-discovery and connection with the world's inherent beauty. Frank will share with us his creative journey and what it feels like to live in Hollywood Hills. Hello, Frank.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Just coming back from some long traveling and try to settle back into Los Angeles.
Oh, sometimes you need time to get settled.
Yeah, completely agree.
And first of all, thank you so much for finding the time in your busy schedule to have the conversation about Los Angeles and about your journey with me.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Me too, me too. So, Frank, originally you're from Germany. Why did you even decide to move to the US? And how did you find yourself in Los Angeles? And what were your first impressions of LA?
That's already 30 years ago. I think I moved here like 30 years ago. And I think I was in a place of my life that I just really didn't know where to go. And I always had a fascination. I'm originally from Germany, and I always had a fascination about the American culture. I was always fascinated about New York.
Mhm.
So I lived for a year in New York. I lived for a year in San Francisco. And somehow I had a business contact in Los Angeles. And I was just not crazy about living in Germany anymore. And I thought, oh, why not just give it a try? Why not just move to Los Angeles? So Los Angeles was not necessarily on my wish list. It just was just an organic thing, because a job offer was on the table.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And when you first came to LA after New York and San Francisco, what did you think of the city?
Of course, like LA is huge, and LA is kind of like a combination of small little districts, So there's not one Los Angeles. I think that Los Angeles has so many different faces, and I think it's very overwhelming when you come the first time. There are so many different areas, and I think you have to just first find out where is your place where you feel most comfortable. Is it like more the ocean or more the hills, or do you like a downtown feel, or do you like more West Hollywood, where it's more pedestrian? So for me at the beginning, it was just more about, just like settling in and find community. I think this was my first goal. And then later I just picked the areas where I would like to live.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You know what? The way you're describing Los Angeles right now, it makes me think that, any other city that you move into, whether in the US or in Europe, you just move in the city and you settle down and you just, live there. But LA really questions you. Who are you? What do you want? What is important for you? And this is how you approach settling in Los Angeles. As you mentioned, whether you want the mountains, maybe you want the ocean, what community you want to build around yourself. And you actually have to answer all those questions, whether consciously or subconsciously. And that's how you choose where you want to live in LA.
I think 30 years ago, I probably didn't have like this mindfulness, it was just kind of an adventure. You just like move into a city. Obviously, I didn't do my research. It was just basically like an opportunity. And then I think that's also a little bit how I work and how I live, so I'm not someone who is researching a lot. I'm just doing things. And I just jump into the cold and just see what happens and what surprises me.
Yes. You're an adventurer.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, a little bit.
So now that you live in Hollywood Hills, how would you describe the vibe and energy of this area? And has it influenced your work or maybe personal life?
So Hollywood Hills was not my first destination. So when I moved here, first I landed in West Hollywood, and I was in the area around the Grove, the big shopping center, and the whole Fairfax district. And I think after a few years, I was more attracted to an area where there's more nature, where there's also a little bit of distance to the crazy city. And the beauty of the Hollywood Hills is that you have a certain detachment from the city centers. So you're still pretty close to everything, but you have a certain distance. You're surrounded by trees and the canyons, and it's much quieter. So, how would I describe the Hollywood Hills? I think the Hollywood Hills is very private. Of course, it has this kind of reputation and the stigma of like, oh, like the rich people live there, but it's not the case. I think it's more people who want to have their privacy, but also don't want to live completely remote, like for example, people in Topanga Canyon or someone further out. So you still have this connection to the city, but you have also your privacy and your sanctuary in the green, looking down on the city.
Yes, yes. It's probably also very stimulating for the creative mind to go into this privacy and to contemplate.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. Everyone is very private in LA. I think LA is not necessarily a city where people open their doors and there's easy to make new friendships or creating community. And I think in the hills it's the same. Everyone is very private. Nobody wants to interfere with someone else's business. And I remember this was when you said like the hills is very creative. It was interesting during COVID when we were all stuck in our houses. I started a little neighborhood get together that I just put little notes in people's mailboxes and said, hey, we come together and come together once a week, in front of this garage, bring your own drink. We have a safe distance and just say hello to your neighbors. And the interesting thing was, since everybody was at home, nobody knew where to go. And there was no social activities. All these other neighbors from all the other houses around me just showed up, and then you got to know the neighbors a little bit. And as you said, it's a very creative community that were like directors and writers and interior designers, and so it's kind of like a mixed bag of people. And everyone who wants to have their privacy, but still interacts and does business with the city.
Yes, yes. And I'm sure you can very well relate to this kind of people because your background in art direction and commercial content for global brands for so many years have been, kind of like the core of your professional life.
I started with basically like production service. So when I have a background in advertising, I used to work in advertising agencies back in Germany. And when I moved to LA, I started with a photographer agency and was a producer, an in-house producer, produced commercial campaigns, fashion campaigns for the photographers this agency represented. And after a while, actually after I think 4 or 5 years, I started my own company, and mostly was a service production company working for European clients who want to come here and create content. LA is a big production hub, and you have access to amazing locations, to talents, and entertainment industry. Everyone is basically here.
Yes.
And then it turned more into creative consulting and art direction. So it's not only production service. It was basically like just expanding the existing business from a pure production service more to a creative consulting agency.
Right. And so with this incredible career going for you, so what inspired you to actually shift focus towards wellness and transformative travel?
It was like an interesting shift, because I think not everyone probably, but I think a lot of people go through phases in their life and you just question what you do, or you just question, do you really still enjoy what you do? And at one point, the certain commercial work I was doing was getting very repetitive. And at one point, you just ask yourself, what is it, what you're really passionate about? What is something what keeps you going? And it's usually something where you also, have a personal interest. And I always love to travel. I'm an avid traveler. I love to explore new countries, new cultures, meet new people. But I'm also very interested in holistic wellness, because I think it's just like fascinating to see what is out, what people do, for well-being, and how we all, navigate through this reality. And so the idea started just to create a publishing platform, say, hey, why, instead of storytelling about, fashion brands and commercial products, why not storytelling about interesting holistic wellness places to discover and interesting places which worthy to see, but also giving a voice to all this incredible storytellers in this wellness field, because it's quite fascinating what is out. And so it's basically still in the field of production, because we still produce content, but the message, or like the content we're producing is now more not selling any handbags or fashion, we're selling more wellness destinations, stories about healing, storying about alternative healing modalities.
Right, right. And what would you say was the most pivotal moment in launching Places of Healing? And how did you know that this project was your next calling?
I think there was not necessarily a certain, moment of enlightenment. It was just like personal interest, because I think it started that a lot of people always ask me, so where do you find always these retreat centers? You're constantly on yoga retreats or that do, plant medicine or just whatever, my own personal journey. People ask me like, yeah, well, how do you find them? And I said, usually I just Google them or word of mouth, or just, ask people who also go to retreats, or just find, hospitality places. And then I just thought, okay, there is actually no source out that it's easier for users to find these places. So I think it was more about, maybe started with a list and recommendations for friends. And then I thought, oh, why not just create, a curated list, a portfolio, something where you get easy access to this information, where you just get basically like a one-pager, which just tells you, okay, this is where it is, this is what they offer, this is how the food is, this is the website, you can check it out. So it's almost kind of making this whole Google search easier. And also have a certain vetting, because there's a lot of stuff out, which I personally would not go, so.
Yeah, so this is interesting. It's almost like, you do this transformative travel and you experience this incredible holistic wellness for yourself from researching it. And then you come back home and maybe some friends ask you like, oh, where would you suggest to go? And then because you have already visited so many places, you can give them a list, but you actually chose to share it with the whole world. This is such a great idea.
Yeah, and but it's still in the beginning, and obviously I have to be more patient about it, that it gets more exposure and that people find it. I always say I'm creating this little coffee shop in the desert, but he loves it. Nobody finds it, so
right.
It's kind of like interesting, because it's now we're living in a time that we get so bombarded with information, and we just have, people almost getting stressed out that there's not a pre-selection, and it's everybody runs around with like a megaphone and just tries to, shoot some information into your face and wants to sell you something. So it's really difficult just to get a voice, in all this information. I think we're living a complete information overload. And so, people pick and choose, certain sources where they trust, or something where they think like, oh yeah, this is someone, or this is a company which has a similar ideals and similar interests like me, and and I follow them and sign up for their newsletter.
Yes, yes. So Frank, in this complete overload information, which I absolutely agree with you, how do you actually go about choosing the destination and storytellers features in Places of Healing? And what do you specifically look for in a place or a person that aligns with your mission?
There's a certain categorization, and we obviously want to show different genres of accommodation. So from luxury to boutique hotels to very simple retreat centers. Because what I also experience with myself, I obviously love, just to go to like an amazing place like the Golden Door in San Diego, or to the Amangiri or something. But on the other side, I also love to experience certain healing modalities in a very simple retreat center, maybe in Mexico or like in Peru. So what we pick is really, first of all, it should be a range, because also some people are maybe more comfortable, to go to certain places, or they also have a certain style of traveling. And some people, they would never go into kind of like a jungle hut, to Costa Rica. So I think it should basically speak to a different travelers, type of travelers. And then the second thing is, it is basically like a mix, we usually stay away from chains, any kind of like big hotel chains who just have a little wellness section or a little spa or something. That's not something that we're interested to feature. It's really more about the people behind these places and what are their philosophies and how authentic are they. And the whole wellness traveling is very in demand right now. It's like one of the fastest growing industries, and everyone obviously tries to, as a hotel owner, tries to sell hotel rooms and fill up their places, and suddenly everybody offers wellness, but it's, I think wellness, how we see it, goes more than just we have a jacuzzi and offer massages. So it's really more about the people behind, what is the philosophies, what they're doing. And then ultimately, and it sounds really funny, but ultimately it's also, is this a place I would go? So I just basically there's so many different places and we could feature so many, but it's kind of like, how is it presented? How are the people, what kind of retreats have been there before, or maybe they have something really interesting. So it's kind of like it comes back to, is this a place which I would personally go? And then I would speak about it and show it my friends, that they also should go.
Yes, Frank, and I couldn't agree with you more that it is definitely people behind places that draw us to these places, because we met at this incredible Topanga yoga retreat with Alex Dawson, and I literally decided, like in the moment, that I will definitely go there together with my husband, just because I know Alex and I know what kind of a retreat she creates with her energy and how incredible she is. And I knew that one way or another, it will be very transformative for me.
Yeah. No, and it's also something that I think there are so many people out, healers or any kind of practitioners, they have such a gift, but they are not necessarily marketing people. They also sometimes have a problem to sell themselves, and sometimes it's also, they have maybe this mindset that, okay, my service should be free, or, it's more kind of like, I'm helping other people. But at the end, they're offering a very valid service and should be, compensated. And also people should talk about that. I think we're living in times where it's much more important that you work on your mental health or your physical health, instead of just buying like another product, for your closet, or like another car, for your garage. So it's that's also like a little bit the goal, that it's like a mix. Obviously, we want to highlight established people and people who have a following and people who have a name in the industry, but we also want to help these smaller retreat centers who do amazing work and create beautiful environments, that they also get a voice and that they also can show their facilities. We just added today, this amazing retreat in Sweden, which is just like run by a Swedish family, with 2 kids, and they were actually thinking about closing it because business was not doing well, and now they decided just to open it up again for 2025. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
Beautiful lake setting, and they just offer the most incredible canvas for yoga retreats or for any kind of like transformative experiences. So we also want to highlight them, but again, we also want to highlight the bigger boutique hotels, or like the bigger luxury places.
Yes, Frank. I feel that places of healing and what you are doing with promoting the healers, promoting these small, authentic places all over the world, is so much more than just a website. By giving the voice to these places and to these people, you are doing this incredible work marketing them, and otherwise nobody would just discover them.
Yeah, thank you. But it's also, I guess, because I work in the world of marketing and I produce so many campaigns, that I know how to package and sell certain stuff. And I think you should use the same skills with, okay, what do you write about the place? What kind of pictures do you select? How do you feature these places? It's just like a marketing expertise, which I want to bring in, for these smaller places. But also, let's face it, like the site also it's a business still, it's not that I'm doing this for charity. There's also obviously, revenue sources coming in from places who have marketing budgets, who want to do retreats. That's basically like something which we will do starting next year. We basically start to do programming. We try to connect, certain healers and wellness facilitators to other established hotels, and basically just like help to put together programming in connection with wellness brands. So it is kind of like, building a bridge from this big pool of interesting healers or people like an Alex Dawson who do incredible work, but also bringing them, into certain places which are maybe still just the spas and still just the simple, hotels, but they want to just get more programming and content, which is more real and more helpful for their guests.
Yes, yes. And I must say that there is literally nothing better than an authentic business, because this is when the service that they provide can truly be the best, and the people who receive this service can, heal themselves. They can become, better people, and it's just, you cannot go wrong with that. An authentic business is what it should be, because if it's not marketed, if it's not run well, then the service quality will eventually decline, possibly. But if it's done really well, if it's approached with the right intentions, and as again, you mentioned authenticity several times as well, being authentic is the key with everything that you do.
Yeah, I totally agree. First of all, like life is short, we're just running out of time,
Yes.
So we're mortal beings, so at one point you should be authentic all the time. But obviously, like when you start your journey, you're not authentic because you just like, pretend to be someone else because you want to fit in a certain structure.
Yes.
But that usually just like, doesn't work out. So I think, on the whole life journey, as more as you know yourself and find out what your true passions are, and that's usually connected where you find true joy. That's usually also something where you're good with, and then basically just like you hopefully just put your full energy into that. If you want to create a business or just want to build like something new or like build a brand or something.
Totally. Yes, absolutely. So Frank, could you please share maybe a story from your travels or a specific destination that deeply moved or transformed you?
God, there's so many, I think, but I think there was like one story which just happened just recently, and I just telling this story already to other friends of mine. I was just in Egypt, and a friend of mine told us that if we visit the temple of Abu Simbel, we should come in the afternoon, because in the mornings, usually people fly in and then fly out the same day. So nobody stays overnight. So we decided to go by car through the desert to reach the temple around like 4 o'clock. And basically we just entered this complete temple by ourselves. There was nobody there. So we had this huge temple by ourselves. And somehow, we both just created this strange connection to this temple, and because it was built by one of the pharaohs, by Ramses, and obviously the whole concept of these pharaohs is always like to connect themselves with the gods and the higher powers, and that's why they build all this tremendous statues and landmarks, which you still see everywhere in Egypt. But somehow we found out there is a kind of special day, and it's October 22nd and February 22nd, where the sun is aligned in the morning exactly, that it goes through the temple and illuminates a holy chamber where the statues are of Ramses and some other holy figures. And so we decided to stay another night that we can experience that in the morning. So we went back at 5:30 in the morning, and there were just like hundreds of people just running into this temple, and just all had their cell phones ready and were just waiting that, this moment that the sun hits these statues. And we were standing outside, and somehow there was this moment, which is something which I really cannot describe, but it's just like we were just looking at the sunrise. And it was not necessary that we haven't seen any sunrises before, but it was this kind of like moment that we thought people are more excited about the reflection of the sunrise and where it hits, to create like, this visual illusion, but nobody's really excited about the sun.
Uh-huh.
And this was like this moment that I realized, we're completely forget, the amazing healing power of or the life of life force or of the sun in general, because we're just like very distracted with the man-made stuff, the stuff in this case, like the temple, even it's like a fascinating temple. So it was just like kind of like a big revelation what the gift of life means, and how lucky we are that we're just alive and that we can just experience the sunrises. And because at one point we will not experience them anymore.
Yes.
So I guess it took this big temple and this famous sunrise spectacular, to appreciate suddenly the sun again. I think that was the big thing, So and it was something which really touched me emotionally.
Wow. That is so profound. What a story.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. So, Frank, and my last question for you is, for those who are searching for their own paths of healing, what advice or maybe a piece of wisdom would you offer to guide them in discovering meaningful experiences?
I think it's just always about having curiosity about stuff and being open to things and not necessarily following every guru and every life coach and every person who tells you something. I think it's really to develop a sense of intuition and really ask yourself, how does it feel, and usually like, the body is more intelligent as the mind, I always say. And I think if it doesn't feel right, then it's probably also not the right path for you. And your wellness journey, your healing journey is very personal. Like everyone has a different journey. So necessarily my journey is not the same journey as your journey. So I think my advice would be just go, for example, to places of healing and just check out these places. How do you like the pictures? Is this something like, is there a place which inspires you? Or is there maybe like a retreat who speaks to you? But how does it feel instead of just, the pure, okay, how much does it cost? And, where is it? And stuff like that. And just like stay open and playful, because usually you're guided, into the right direction, it's just from a higher source, not necessarily, from your limited human mind.
Yes. And it was so true that you said just be open to your intuition as well, because once you're guided, you need to be open to be able to perceive it through your intuition.
It's not easy, just to listen to or to feel this intuition. It's not, because, again, like the mind is very powerful, and we're all carrying these voices in us, and everybody, usually wants to follow what other people are doing. And I think what other people are doing is maybe not your own story. So I think you have to really find out what is your story, and that usually is connected with something which feels also in your whole body, different as somebody tells you, how to feel.
Yes, so true. Well, Frank, thank you so much for this enlightening conversation and for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your travel stories, and thank you for giving a voice to healing places. And there are healers all over the world, because just like artists who create art and they don't know how to market themselves, people and places like this oftentimes need someone like you to promote them. And it's a very, very honorable thing that you are doing. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast, and good luck with everything. I love what you do. I love that you just bring so many different people from different walks of life, on your podcast. That's really fascinating. And thank you so much, for having me.
Yes, of course. And we'll post a link to your website in the description of the episode. So the listeners will be able to check it out and sign up, and hopefully will benefit from it, because I have never heard of a website like this, Places of Healing, that provides this very well checked information for people to use for their own healing journey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Feel and Experience Hollywood Hills with my special guest, Frank Roller. If you enjoy my podcast, In the Mood for California, please sign up for future episodes at your preferred platform and please leave your feedback. I really appreciate your time and support. You can follow me on Instagram at In the Mood for California and check out my website www.inthemoodforcalifornia.com. Selling and buying homes with soul is not just my real estate strategy. It's an intuitive and holistic approach that embraces your values, aspirations, and conscious intentions. If you want to discover the power of mindfulness in your real estate journey with my compassionate guidance, I'm here for you. Next time, we'll embark on a journey to Thousand Oaks, a haven for those seeking to reinvent their lives. How does this tranquil community inspire fresh starts and new perspectives? What makes it an ideal setting for embracing beauty, solitude, and transformation? Join me in the exploration of a place where reinvention truly thrives. Cannot wait to see you there.
In the Mood for California. Feel the soul of Old Hollywood.